Today, I'm really excited to talk about financial freedom. I mean, who of us out there would not like more financial freedom and peace to go where we want, when we want, with who we want? And I get to welcome Mary Hart from the AIM Higher Academy. And she's going to be discussing with us how you too can achieve financial freedom, real estate investment opportunities. She's even hosted retreats. And not only has she attended masterminds, but she has now started hosting masterminds. And she's going to tell us in detail about that, as well as writing the ultimate love letter. Welcome, Mary Hart.
Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for having me. Excited to
What
be
would
here.
what would you like people to know about you that led you to this financial freedom piece?
Sure. I think there's several things in terms of my professional background that led into this. I am a retired estate planning attorney. That's how I started out 30 some years ago doing estate planning. And then I added on over the years corporate work and real estate work and tax work, and ended up in the latter stages of my career owning my own firm in Asheville, North Carolina, and retired from that, shut down my firm in 2017, retired from that. So there's sort of the professional side of me that was geared towards wealth and estate planning and all that. And then I think from a personal standpoint, I like to travel. I like to eat well. I like to do what I want, when I want, with whom I want, and that takes money. And so the simple life with no money was not going to do it for me. And so I needed to figure out a way that I could create an income stream without always trading time for dollars. So when I'm lawyering, you're just a glorified hourly worker. You're just trading time for dollars. So at some point back in about 2004, maybe, I started adding on real estate investing and private lending as a way to create a secondary cash flow, which ultimately became more than I was making as a lawyer owning my own firm. And at that point, I retired from lawyering and just live off my investments, and I teach around the country and do all that. So
Oh,
yeah.
fantastic. I mean, if anyone's listening or watching, whether you're on YouTube or listening to the podcast, just know that it's possible. And certainly when I talk about building momentum in midlife for women, we want people to know that it's never too late to create a new income stream, to create a new narrative or chapter in your life, or to even pivot your career. When you went to law school, did you imagine that you would be doing these things?
Oh, no, not at all. And in fact, I can tell you my aha moment, which was I was about 42. I was practicing law. I had recently gotten divorced, and someone gave me the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. Many people have heard of it. And it's a small little book with a powerful, powerful message. I recommend everybody read it. That and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill is another one. But anyway, I read that book and I had this aha moment of I'm just a glorified hourly worker when I'm lawyering. And if I ever want to stop lawyering, my income will go away. So at that point, I thought, what do I need to do to create a sideline of income that doesn't necessarily take a lot of my time? And that's how I got started into real estate investing and private lending.
And how did your learning journey of how to do that begin?
Well, there are just so many resources out there. I'm a big reader, so I just started looking for books. And of course, you can ask people on Facebook if you need to. But I don't know, one book led to another, or I just started researching, like Robert Kiyosaki, who wrote the Rich Dad Poor Dad. I found other books. I got asked. This was actually a big moment. I got asked to teach at a real estate investor conference, because they said there weren't many lawyers who understood the estate planning, the business, and the real estate all together. And I did all of that. And they said, please, well, first before teaching, they said, please attend a conference on investing with self-directed IRAs so that you can help our clients. This was a custodian, an IRA custodian, that asked me to go to this class. So I went to this class in Atlanta, started meeting. It was all for real estate investors, met tons of real estate investors. I got asked a lot of questions from the lawyer standpoint, and eventually that teacher asked me to teach with him. And then all these people around the country started asking me to teach with him. And I started out teaching lawyer topics, but every time I attended a conference, I was just a sponge. I soaked up so much information in the real estate investing space, because I might speak for an hour, but sit there for 2 days and listen to everybody. And I loved it. Loved that energy, that knowledge, just I soaked it all up. And so then I just started looking for ways to learn. And so you find mentors. I joined mastermind groups, which I think we're going to talk about in a little bit. I went to as many conferences as I could afford to go to, the time and the money, and just started networking with people who were in the space that I wanted to learn from or figure out how they were doing what they were doing. So the beauty of it is you don't have to start from scratch. You know, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's so many people doing it, and that's the way you learn. So read, attend conferences, and find mentors.
There we go. That's, yeah. And it's reaching out there. Sometimes in this digital age, there's so much information and so many people who are kind of talking to us or talking at us, and finding the right people that are the right fit to lead us to that next step can sometimes be a challenge. But it sounds like you just found it. That's amazing.
Now, you know, there are always stumbling blocks along the way, but if you can learn to judge people and don't go after the super salesy, gimmicky people, you know, that want to charge you $30,000 for their knowledge every year. Just, and I have done that, by the way, and some of them are worth it, but
Okay.
not all. So just don't start out like that. Start out a little more organically.
Good. Well, I think that's an encouragement too, because plenty of people I know have done the, yeah, 10, 20, $30,000. And it's been like, wait a minute, I didn't get really what I needed out of that. Um, and sometimes it takes us a few years to get started as entrepreneurs to really understand what do we want, what's our message, and how to get it out there.
And I think as a beginner, you want to start smaller anyway. You want to just, like I said, learn organically, start reading books, find a conference or two to go to, and just, you know, go slow. You don't want to jump in with all your time and all your money at the get-go, or you're going to make mistakes.
It's true. It's really true. I really like that. Well, you did mention the mastermind. And for anyone who maybe doesn't know, what is a mastermind? I mean, for us that grew up in the 70s, 80s, then, you know, it's that game that you had to figure out which order the different color pegs were in. So tell us about what a mastermind is in the business world.
So the phrase mastermind was coined by Napoleon Hill in the seminal book Think and Grow Rich, which I think every person should read. It's a small book with another really powerful punch. So the concept of it, and by the way, not only does Napoleon Hill think this, but most of the people who know masterminds now believe that a mastermind is one of the key principles to your success in your personal and your business life. And a mastermind is nothing more than a group of people who come together, who have a common purpose in mind. Let's say it's women in real estate investing, for instance. They have a common purpose in mind, and they come together to empower and support each other in a non-judgmental, very supportive way. And they combine their energy, their knowledge, their skill sets to help someone. So if you've got, say, a struggling entrepreneur who has a challenge and they bring that challenge up, someone in the group has probably dealt with that challenge and can help them. And so one of the formats that I like in a mastermind, and we do in my mastermind, is we do what we call hot seats. Although I think I mentioned to you in a previous conversation, my mastermind I do with my friend Wendy Sweet, and we call it the Sweet Hart Women in Real Estate Mastermind. So instead of hot seats, which is where somebody comes up to present, we call it the Heart Suite. But anyway, normally in a mastermind, it's a hot seat, and you come up in front of the group and you explain what you're doing, what's working for you, what's not working for you, what's your challenge that you need help with. And then we spend about a few minutes asking clarifying questions so that everybody really understands the issue the person is seeking help with. And then the rest of the time, it's usually about 15 to 30 minutes, the person is on the hot seat. We're giving feedback or recommendations, things like that. And it can be incredibly powerful because a lot of times we're so focused and myopic in our own world that we don't see something that's really obvious that might make things better. For instance, one of the members of our last mastermind was a young real estate agent who is somewhat of an introvert. She doesn't like to be out there on social media or anything else. And she was trying to figure out why she couldn't get a good foothold in with getting business. And it was so obvious to us that she's this dynamic young woman. Get your face out there on social media. Get your face out there. Doesn't have to be about selling real estate. So she has now branded herself as the mountain bike realtor because she's a big mountain biker. And she is growing a following on Instagram and TikTok, I think, as the mountain bike realtor, because the area in which she lives is a mecca for mountain bikers. And so people all over the country are finding her. And if they want to move to that mountain bike mecca, she's now their logical choice. So it's only been going on for about 6 months, but it's been an incredible ride for her. And she did not want to do it, but everybody in the room was like, this is such powerful feedback. You must do this. And now she's like, I don't know why I didn't do it sooner. So that's the type of thing, you know, she it wasn't obvious to her what was wrong, but it was obvious to a lot of the other people in the room because we're not in it. You know, we can watch it from afar.
Well, it's really like crowdsourcing with people that have all these different perspectives and then can see what those of us have our blind spots, right? Which is the great part of that. Wow.
And so
Well,
that's the key concept, is that blind spot, seeing other people's blind spots and helping them in a non-judgmental, supportive, empowering way. And it's
I
great for women. It's great for women.
I do love that. And how do you select people, or do you let them find you for the mastermind? Do you have like a process to weed out people that might not be the right fit?
So different masterminds are structured different ways. The way that we are doing it right now, it's focused on women in real estate. So whether it's agents or investors, mostly are investors, some are agents and want to be investors. We let people self-select at this point because we're relatively new. It's sort of a first come, first serve. After we had our first one, we had about 26 people and they went home and told all their friends. And within 3 days, we had 15 more people asking to be on the waiting list. So we purposely try to keep our group around 25, 30 at the max so that we have plenty of time to actually help someone. Other people, you have to apply and get accepted. Those are usually the ones that are the $25,000 and more, you know, fees. Other ones are bigger. You kind of get an invitation, but they're more people, or they're mixed genders. We are focusing on women because we think that I've seen it happen many times, and I'm in mixed gender masterminds, by the way. I love them too. But a lot of times women don't speak up as much in a mixed gender meeting. And so what we found is that if we focus on women, they have more of a voice than they are willing to throw out there in where you maybe have a lot of seriously experienced male investors. So that's why we've chosen to do it for women in real estate.
Well, and I love that as well. And that has also been my experience. I've been in, and it's not to discriminate against men, but it's just knowing that women are not going to speak up and be heard the same. And so my mission is to give that space and place for women's voices to be heard. So I so appreciate you sharing that about your mastermind with us.
Well, it was interesting. I'm sorry, don't interrupt, but the last mastermind I was in that was a mixed gender one, there were probably about 35 people in the room. There were only 4 women. And of those women, I'm the only one who got up to speak. Everybody else, their male partner spoke on their behalf and usually did not even mention them, even though they were equal partners in the business. I was just appalled. But anyway, that's neither here nor there, but that's why we have the women. That's why we do it for women.
Absolutely. I went to a business meeting for local entrepreneurs, and there were 100 people in the room. Less than 10 were women, and only 1 spoke a word in the 3 hours. And that's what laid on my heart after. I'm like, where are the women and where are the voices? And, you know, it's just kind of giving more chances. There's enough room at the table for us to come together and speak up and advocate. And it's collaboration, not competition, because there's enough work in the world.
There's enough for everybody. Yeah, I'm totally an abundance thinker. So I believe there's plenty for everybody. We don't need to compete with anybody.
Excellent. Oh, very good. Well, I love how we really got to talk about that mastermind aspect. And there's something special about how you create a legacy and financial freedom with your expertise. We touched on it a little bit, but I'd like you to tell me like your greatest passionate message for women for financial freedom.
Sure. Well, it's really 2 parts of it. There's the part where you create financial freedom. And I think that a lot of us were so busy raising children, working, doing whatever it is, we're not really thinking about the future, whether when we're retired or if, heaven forbid, we lose our job, or, we're at the mercy of other people for our income, or at the mercy of trading time for dollars. If we're not at work, we're not making a paycheck. And so my first passion is always, how can we show people a way to make your dollars work for you and not just your body work for you? So if you're asleep, your dollars are out there making more dollars, multiplying. So that is in this life cycle of wealth, you make the money, but then you got to grow the money, right? So that's part of the passion, is how do we grow the wealth? Then there's I guess there are really three parts, because the next part is, how do you keep as much of it as possible? Because it's not what we make, it's what we keep. And so how do you invest in a way that is either tax-free or tax-deferred, or does not get taken away by creditors? Or, how do you protect yourself from bad actors? How do you protect yourself from judgments? And how do you invest in a way that you can save as much of that as possible? And then the last piece of that I'm super passionate about is creating your legacy. And that legacy is partly financial. You've worked so hard to create your wealth. How do you leave it, either to your loved ones or your charitable causes or whatever you want to do? What's the best way to leave it? But it's not just financial. Legacy is also how you live your life and the impact you leave on the world when you're no longer in it, right? How will people remember you? If you have your 80th birthday party and you only invite people whose lives you've impacted positively, how many people will be at your birthday party, right? How many people will be there? And if you have not impacted people positively, it's going to be a pretty small party, right? So how can we create a personal mission statement for ourselves that allows us to live in a way that creates a legacy and an impact that will positively affect others, that they will look back and remember us positively? So, and the financial piece of that, really all of it, I call your ultimate love letter. So sort of how can you, and I don't know if that's what you were getting at, but,
that's totally where we were building. Because, sometimes people think the ultimate love letter is, gushing in between one person to another, but it's so much more. So go ahead.
We can all write a gushy, romantic love letter. We can all do that. But the love letter that really speaks to my heart is this love letter of, how do you leave your estate plan and your financial organization such that if you become disabled or you die, that your loved ones will have the information they need, all organized, to be able to execute an estate plan that you have lovingly put together, so that they can go about the business of grieving without the extra stress and headache of not knowing where anything is. How are the bills paid? Like in my family, I do all the financial stuff. My husband's retired. He doesn't take care of that. So if something happened to me, he would have no idea how the bills get paid, what account it comes out of. Is something on auto pay? Is it not on auto pay? When are the property taxes due? Because we're real estate investors, so we have a number of pieces of real estate. So all of that is in my head. And I have about 1,000 passwords in my password app, right? How does anybody get that information if it's all in my head? So part of what I'm in the process of doing is creating not only my perfect estate plan, but my ultimate love letter workbook, which is basically a spreadsheet of every single piece of information they need to know, down to a copy of my passport, my driver's license, my social security, everything my loved ones might need, or whoever's in charge. So they could just open this notebook, whether that's paper or digitally, and just go, oh my gosh, yes, here's this information that we need. And for each asset, as a real estate investor, for each asset, I will have a sheet of paper that says things like, when was this property purchased? How is it managed? What bills are associated? What's monthly? What's annually? What needs a check? What's on auto pay? What accounts? What income? All that kind of stuff. So to me, that's the ultimate love letter, because as a 30+ year estate planning attorney, I cannot tell you how many times I saw people come into my office when a loved one had died. Not only were they grieving because the loved one had passed away, sometimes very unexpectedly, they had no idea how to start, or there was no estate plan and they ended up paying more in estate taxes or more in fees, or having assets go to people that it was not intended to go to, or people who were not married, but they were lifelong partners, but not married, who the lifelong partner got nothing because they're legal strangers and they weren't related. and no estate plan was put in place. So it is truly the nicest gift you can give your loved ones, is to have an estate plan and have the financial organization to execute that estate plan when something happens to you. That's a long answer, but I'm very passionate about that.
Well, I hear it and feel it and appreciate it, because even when I was speaking at a military money convention last year on all the different emotions that are wrapped up when you're coming in just to plan financially, well, then you add grief on top of it. It's exponential. And it is so important to have that workbook, and maybe it needs to be paper and digital for people. So it's step one, look at this. Here's the passwords. This is what we do, so anyone could walk it through. And for some of us, it's so difficult to articulate all that, because until we sit down at the computer to pay those bills, we don't think about it. Oh, I go here, 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 and here. So I love that you've given that as such a gift of making it easier on those that we leave behind.
And think about, something that people don't think about, which I want your audience to realize, is that in terms of our lives, we're so digital now. We have all these digital assets. Just think of your Facebook account, your Instagram account, your online banking, all this stuff. So some states are now being better about executing laws that allow your executor, your trustee, to take over that digital life. But a lot of places you can't do that yet unless your documents authorize that. So in my estate planning documents, I always make sure and give my executor, trustee, whatever it is, the authority to deal with my digital assets after my death. And in things like Facebook, you can go in and create a legacy contact. Some people, I didn't know that for a long time, but you can name someone who now is the one person with authority to either shut down your Facebook page or set a memorial page, whatever it is. But there are all these horror stories and court cases about people whose child maybe died unexpectedly and all their photographs are in the iCloud, or on their phone, and the parents could not access them because they didn't have the authority. So Apple wouldn't release the photographs. So think about that. If your child stores all their photographs digitally, or you do, and you haven't authorized someone to have access to that after your death, your loved ones may not be able to get to your photographs. Nobody thinks about that stuff.
I had thought about it certainly for the adults, but you're right. For our young adult children, it's really important that they know that these are parts of the process as well. Wow.
And once they're 18, you no longer get to make decisions for them without powers of attorney or other documents like, power of attorney to act for them. So they're legal adults. So you have no, not necessarily any ability to go in and get their stuff off their iPad or their iPhone or their Android or whatever it is.
Absolutely. And, there comes that kind of transition between the teen years and young adult, where some may not be ready for their parents to have access. And I'm like, listen, I'm not going on there to look at anything, to interfere. Don't share your passwords with a friend or girlfriend or boyfriend. I mean, come on, just don't do that, because they're going to hack into that. But what you need your parents to have access to, and that kind of brings me a little bit of a sidetrack, but the healthcare power of attorney for our children who are over 18, whether they're moving out of the house, going to community college, or a trade school, you need to have access to that if they allow it, so that you can support them through it. Yeah.
Well, it's interesting you bring that up, because I had been teaching that for many years. But when my oldest, who's now 31, when he was 18, on his 18th birthday, he was having surgery to remove wisdom teeth. So we go into the surgeon's office, and like I always did, because I was the mom, I start filling out the paperwork. And the people behind the desk said, "I'm sorry, you can't fill out that paperwork." I'm like, "What do you mean? I'm his mom." "Yes, I can." She's like, "No, he's 18. And I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're right. Today he's 18. I teach this stuff. It didn't even occur to me." So as soon as he got out of surgery and, was awake, I said, "Guess what we're doing tomorrow, honey? You're going to have an estate plan." Luckily, I was an estate planning attorney. So I gave him an estate plan for his 18th birthday. And then my other two sons, as soon as they turned 18, they got an estate plan. And it was simple to start out with. We had the healthcare power of attorney, the durable power of attorney, which is for everything but healthcare, and a simple will. Basically, that was it. Then as they got older and they started accumulating some things, now we've created revocable trusts for them so that their assets will avoid probate if they die. And anyway, but I would highly encourage everyone over the age of 18 or 18 or over to have an estate plan, even if it is a very simple will and those powers of attorney that allows someone to act for you if you cannot act for yourself. And a living will. A living will is what we very crudely call the pull the plug document. If you have an incurable, irreversible condition that would otherwise cause your death within a relatively short period of time, you need to sign one of these documents called a living will if you do not want to be kept alive on artificial life support. But that's the only thing that's keeping you alive. That document is what gives your healthcare power of attorney the sword to go ask the hospital to terminate life support when it is clear that you will never recover.
Absolutely. And I would have been more shocked if I hadn't just updated my will in the last 30 days. And to go through these digital assets, the living will, and you can decide if you want it to be 1 day, 5 days, 30 days, 90 days. You get to decide the duration of that. But taking the time to update it, and for us, we hadn't updated in 8 years, and our kids are now adults, and so that's really important to have those conversations. Which a lot of people think, oh, well, my kid's busy in college, I don't want to talk to them about that. Like, no, that's exactly when we
When
need
they
to
come
have
home
this.
for the holidays, have that conversation. In fact, my oldest son's getting ready to get married, and we're about to have the conversation with his fiance about finances and what to expect and how to manage everything, because now he's going into a unit, a marital unit, and they have things they need to understand how they work. So it's just important to have these conversations, as hard as they might be. It's part of that love letter, is making sure that your children walk into the world of adulthood understanding financial concepts and how it works.
Oh my goodness, I'm trying to review everything, and I'm looking at my notes, and I've got page after page written. Let me see if I captured it all for today. Well, I think one of the biggest things is, hey, in finance, start small, go slow, and read some books. And whether you're listening to them on audio or reading them, and take some notes and just start to kind of take those small bites to eat that elephant of financial freedom. And that it is just really important and essential to make sure you understand what legacy you are leaving to your family, whether it's a partner, a spouse, your children, and to have that kind of blueprint really laid out in a clear fashion. What is, let me see. Well, knowing what you like and what you need and how to get there. And it's never too late to start a new career or to start financial planning. I mean, a lot of us can think, well, gosh, I sure wish I knew this 20 and 30 years ago. But today's a good day to start learning that much more and taking control. I
Yeah.
like how you talked about.
Oh, no, sorry. Go ahead. I was just going to say, I didn't start till I was in my 40s. And when my investment income exceeded my lawyering income, I retired from lawyering, and now I just teach.
That is amazing. I like that you're in mastermind groups that are just women to elevate those voices. And you're also in mixed groups because there is knowledge, and there's a wealth of knowledge from certainly both. I'm just going through so many of them, of like how you walked us through kind of that love letter to really know what are you paying out of what, like really kind of lay it out succinctly for people so that they can kind of follow the pathway, because it's so overwhelming.
I even went down to who are the vendors, like for the different properties. We have real estate investment properties in different places. Who do they call if it needs a plumber or an HVAC person or whatever? I'm trying to be as detailed as possible. So if these kids get handed this portfolio of properties, they either know, okay, who's a real estate agent they can call if they want to just liquidate everything, or if they keep the properties for income, who do they have to call if they need something? Because they're not managing it right now. So I'm trying to be as detailed as possible. Insurance policies, all the insurance policies, the policy numbers, the agent, the contact information, all of that. Because if they had to go dig through my filing cabinet to find all that, can you imagine how difficult that would be?
Well, that's right. And it's overwhelming enough, right? When you're dealing with the emotions of the loss and the grief of that. So I think you did an amazing job painting that picture for us of financial freedom is possible to achieve. It's okay and actually it's important to find that mentor or that mastermind group. And people might want to reach out to you at the AIM Higher Academy. How would you like people to find you, Mary?
So if they want to know more about that, they can go to www.alternativeinvestingmovement.com. I know that's a mouthful. Alternativeinvestingmovement.com. That explains the AIM Higher Academy. They can also find me on Facebook. I think it's Mary Hart AIM, maybe. Can't remember. Maybe find me on Instagram is certainly Mary Hart AIM. This is my account number, AIM, Mary Hart, MaryHartAIM. Or they can email me at maryhart@maryhart.net if they want more information. maryhart@maryhart.net, and it's MaryHart.
Oh, excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I wanted to make sure we got to do your fun fact that
Oh.
you decided. So, what
Well,
is your fun fact?
my fun fact is I now have Christmas hair. I dyed my hair red in December. I don't know if I like it yet, but normally it's sort of a mousy brown with a little gray mixed in because I am 60, so that happens. But I'm going back on Saturday to decide if I'm going to keep the red or do something else. That's my fun fact for the day. That I'm a redhead
There
now.
you go. Well, I'm not judging on brown, mousy, or gray at all because I've been going all natural for, I think it's coming up on 6 years now when I took a Brave challenge. So I fully support that. Well, Mary Hart, I do hope that people have learned something from this message and that they will reach out to become even more confident in leaving their legacy and that financial freedom that we all really desire. And it doesn't have to be overwhelming when you find the right support.
That is true. And there are some free resources on the maryhart.net website. It's a newer website, so there's not a whole lot on there now, but I'm adding so they can find some free stuff on there.
Excellent. Well, I will go check it out. Thank you so much, Mary, for joining me.
Sure, I appreciate it. Thank you very much.